We're finally live. Sean, you can check the link.
I am checking the link.
Yes.
But it's not on.
It's not on. It should be.
It says I'm in the waiting party. Maybe we should go back.
You're in the waiting party. Try again.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Now we just had an inception of the podcast. Hey everybody. Welcome to STARBOUND 27. It is, what day is it? Thursday. I know it's Thursday. March 23rd. And it's been a crazy past few days.
The gain.
Oh, the gain on the microphone. I don't know if we can do that live. We can try, I guess.
It's gonna blow everything up.
Yeah. Oh shit. Sorry, microphone. Hopefully that wasn't too annoying to the ears. Pardon. There we go. Okay, now I'm testing the microphone. It's been an interesting week. Done a lot of things. Saw this show, which is Twilight, Los Angeles, 1992, which is playing at the. It's good. Awesome. Which is playing at the Amundsen Theater. I don't even know how to pronounce it exactly, but it's like Los Angeles, like downtown Los Angeles is like big theater kind of, and they have a lot of like free shows and stuff like that.
Talking about the Amazon.
Amundsen. Yeah, if you go to freeplay, like freeplay.org, you can get like basically free ticket. Like I got completely free tickets for this one.
Yeah, and, no card information, no nothing, which is like not possible in this country.
Yeah, and it's like this show is really interesting. Like it's like retelling of like the Rodney King stuff in 1992, and it's like different perspectives. Like.
Yeah, it was like different.
Quotes.
It was like it felt like 30 different perspectives of this one particular key historical event in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And it was just like wow. There's so many different views and perspectives that I was seeing.
Yeah.
That I've never even thought of or questioned before.
Right. Yeah.
So
the interesting thing though is that it was a one-woman show originally.
Yeah, allegedly.
Let me actually pull up the playwright information.
Yeah, the show we saw had 5 different actors playing like 30 different characters.
Yeah.
But the idea that it was a one-person show seems impossible.
That's what I don't get, because like the
amount of dialogue, like there's no way you can remember all that.
So the thing that's interesting is
like what?
The cast is like racially diverse. So if it was a one-woman show, you wonder like what race was the woman, because the characters, they're all speaking from different perspectives.
Yeah, literally different racial perspectives. So there is a lot of Asian, like men, women, children, black men, women, and children.
And the way we saw it was
a lot of white men, Latinas and Latinos.
Yeah, and so the way we saw it is like there's multiple different characters, but like the Asian woman, she would play every Asian character, like she would speak through their voice, through quotes of actual people.
Yeah.
And then the white dude would play all the white characters and stuff like that. But then every once in a while, they would like switch, like to prove a point, kind of.
Yeah.
Like they would have like one of the other actors play like a white girl or something like that. Yeah. And they would do that, which was really interesting. But the playwright's name is Anna Devere Smith. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing that.
I have seen her face before.
Yeah, she is credited with having created a new form of theater. Her plays, which focus on contemporary issues from multiple points of view, are composed of excerpts from hundreds of interviews. Yeah, that's how it went.
You can tell. You can tell.
Yeah. Plays and films based on them include Fires in the Mirror in Twilight, Los Angeles, 1992, Let Me Down Easy, and Notes from the Field, about the school to prison pipeline. Yeah, so this show was really, really cool. And I highly recommend it if it's like in your.
I also highly recommend it. I kind of wish I also now could see the one person show.
Yeah,
because
I know, right?
I don't think it would be as good.
Is there anybody you want to shout out that you really
from the show that was fantastic? I'll tell you right now.
They were all fantastic.
Everyone in the show was fantastic, but the people that really caught my eye was I want to say Jean Sakata. It might be Janae.
Oh, Jean.
Might be Jeanne.
Right. Jeanne.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how to say her first name. But she was fantastic.
She was great.
She was phenomenal. I feel like, really good. And maybe just because of where we came in during the show, because we missed like the beginning part of it.
Yeah.
But I feel like the show was centered around her character's perspectives. Yeah. And yes, it widened to a lot of other different
I think
ones.
so. I think I agree.
But I feel like we were focusing on the particular, like the Korean community in LA at the time of the Rodney King riots.
Right.
We got a lot from like that side because it's kind of like this unspoken side.
Right. We talk about how it's usually taught in black and white in schools.
Exactly.
Like you hear the white perspective or the black perspective in schools, and that's what they teach it. But you don't usually hear about the Korean perspective of the Los Angeles 1992 events.
No, there was a whole theme about like if you weren't black or white, you're stuck in this in-between zone where you have to pick a side.
Yeah.
Or the side will be picked for you.
Right. Yeah. So. It was really interesting because I think the playwright, like she tried her best to present an objective point of view by just quoting people.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, it's subjective on which quotes she's choosing. So nothing can be entirely, but nothing, in my opinion, can be entirely objective, but you can
art is completely objective and no art is completely subjective either.
But as far as objective art goes, this tries, and it, in my opinion, does a lot better than a lot of other, forms of art, which some art's job is to be subjective. That is the job of the art. This one, I think, was trying to be subjective.
I think it was trying to be
trying to be objective.
I think it was trying to be honest.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It was trying to be very honest about what was going on. And yes, you can still say that they are cherry picking what perspectives we actually get to see to forward a narrative, because it's hard to forward a narrative if you only focus on if you don't focus on any particular through line.
Yeah,
but no, the show felt very honest to me.
Yeah,
I did appreciate.
I agree, and the perspectives are so diverse that you don't feel like you're getting forced one perspective, because you get like 30 different perspectives, so it's like
far too many.
It feels like the most objective you could possibly make a play. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
it felt like a very objective version of the events. It was telling you specific dates. It was literal quotes from people. The whole show is just quotes.
Yeah,
they're not like, I don't think there's a point in the story where it's just like the plot of like I don't know, characters that don't exist. Every single like piece of dialogue is a quote from somewhere.
Even if it's a quote like from one person, sometimes they have like multiple people. They make it a scene, as if, because there's this one scene where she's like, I don't want to spoil it, but she's retelling this character is retelling her story of events from the jury's perspective, but she's quoting the other jurors. And so the other actors play the other jurors, but still the quote is hers. So they're speaking from still this one woman's perspective, but as if it's in a scene, which was so cool. You know what I'm saying?
That was really cool. That's one of the highlights of that.
Yeah.
The whole show.
That was really cool. Yeah. And, and then we walked around downtown after, got some.
We did get super duper lost.
Yeah. Found that Irish pub.
Well, would you call it lost if you were never looking for anything?
I would say we were roughly looking for a place to eat, and we stumbled upon magically. Like, we decided just to see if we could go find something cool, and we had to go on this. LA is like interesting to navigate by foot, but like we decided to do it, and we ended up like going on this weird it was a highway. But it was like the road was blocked off, so you could like walk on the highway.
We were walking on a ramp of the highway.
Yeah,
because it was directing us literally like, oh, there's no sidewalk here, so just take the highway. So like, all right. Yeah, it's ironic because I was just trying to tell you earlier, like the big roads in LA are the highways.
Yeah,
there's no like highways of the highways. Like the way to get around in this city is literally the highways. And here's a literal example of, you can't even walk not on a highway to go grab something to eat from the Manson.
They didn't build it like that. It's so interesting.
Yeah, no, it's built specifically for cars. There might be like a lobbying thing where companies designed it that way intentionally. It might be just not having forethought in the city's future and the fact it becomes so crowded. I don't know what the situation is, But yeah, no, the highways are just the main roads in LA.
Yeah. Anyway, we went, and like a lot of places in LA close early. They close at like 9. Yeah.
This is not like New York where like the city never sleeps. There's definitely the city sleeps.
LA sleeps, and it's kind of weird because it feels almost as if LA is living on East Coast time. He goes to bed,
which they shouldn't, but they also wake up late,
right? So but it's like, why even have the different hours if y'all are gonna keep the same schedule? I mean, I guess it's because of the sun, right? But anyway, we were roaming in the dark for some food because everything was closed. Even like 7-Eleven was closed, so we're like, what are we gonna do? And then in the dark, a shimmering Irish pub.
Ooh, tell it to me.
Yeah, it lit up, and it was like a beacon of light. And we decided to go in there. Had a Guinness, with a soft pretzel.
That soft pretzel was
that was a good soft pretzel. Yeah,
it was scrumptious. Yeah.
Wouldn't
mind going back there.
I wouldn't either.
The bartenders were pretty chill.
It's like the only place that was open. It was like the spot.
It was. Yeah. It was. Honestly. Yeah. It was. Yeah. No, the city's very weird, especially like downtown. That place closes. Yeah, at a too reasonable of a time to a point where it's unreasonable.
And like the weird thing is like Wednesdays are the throwdown days in LA. Yeah. Like I went out last night because Wednesday is the day to go out, right?
Wednesdays are busier than the weekend. I'll tell you that.
Right. And it was interesting, to say the least. Like it was interesting.
Would you like to share a little bit what's going on?
Well, I'll talk about our prior experience. So like what Sean and I noticed, because we take like the public transport all the time, is that on Wednesdays, like when it's like Tuesday at 11:59, the moment it hits midnight, there's suddenly way more people on the metro. Like I'm talking like security. I'm talking people in general. I'm talking like it's weird. It's like
that midweek. It's like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. That spread is the weekend.
Yeah,
and then the weekend are work days.
It's you wonder why. And like the bartender at the Irish pub was telling us that she thinks it's because a lot of people don't have like schedules out here per se, or like the same schedule, like as far as work goes, and it's a lot more free time. And
right, so, it's not like a one industry. I mean, film is kind of like the big industry here, I guess.
But it doesn't require specific hours.
But film doesn't have 9 to 5 hours, so it feels like the city's just scattered in when is the time to go and do things and when is it not.
Even if you're working on a set as an actor, it probably changes from day to day based on what hours of daylight you need, and
exactly, unless you're nighttime. You might have day for night shots,
right? And so and then on Wednesday throughout the whole day, it's just like bumping, and on Saturday, Sunday, Friday, it's not that crazy, which is weird because on the East Coast, it's like that's the day.
It is. I feel like the weekdays on the East Coast are miserable. Yeah, and everyone like lightens up on the weekend.
Yeah, and here it's weird that Wednesday is the go-to. I don't know. It's interesting.
It's just different.
Anyway,
different culture, different vibe. Want to share something?
Yeah, I've also been reading Much Ado About Nothing by Shakespeare.
Does it have much to do about nothing?
I have yet to analyze why it's called that, but I really like it so far.
By the end of the play, it's like, this whole thing was about nothing. Never mind.
I know.
Just forget it. Forget this whole show.
Yeah, but it's really, really interesting. Like, it's kind of. I'm trying to think about like a good way to summarize it in short. Well, it starts with this intro with like Shakespeare.
You actually gave the intro time of day where most people
I know. Usually I would just like skip through that, but this time I was like, I kind of want to learn more about Shakespeare, so I started like reading it, and it was really interesting. Like, there's a lot of like fun facts about Shakespeare that I had no idea about, and they still don't know a lot. But they also do know a lot.
I mean, Shakespeare sometimes feels like a myth because there's still people saying that he was a community of writers and not just one writer. No one really knows William Shakespeare.
Well, they talk about that in this.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, Sylvan. It's like Sylvan. What is this person's name that wrote this?
Sylvan bloke?
His name is like Sylvan something. It's kind of a cool name. Oh, snap.
Sylvan's already pretty hard. I'm not going to lie.
I know. Isn't that a cool name? It's like Silver.
I am Sylvan. The Sylvan Surfer.
Oh, yes, exactly.
I bring the Marvel back in.
Oh, wait, no. That's the introduction. Okay, but no, not the introduction. Sylvan Barnett, Tufts University, wrote this. Not even the introduction. It's like before the introduction. It's called.
I was gonna say that's not even the introduction. That's like a whole 5 chapters right there.
It's called Shakespeare: An Overview, and they have like like they have like drawings of like what the stage looked like that Shakespeare like originally performed at, and they talk about how like Shakespeare was kind of like this upstart guy who he just wanted to write. Yeah, he just wanted to write, and like there was a lot of like he performed where he could. But then there was eventually stuff that was built, like stages, and they were tweaked. But he still just performed where he could, and that's why a lot of the Shakespeare plays are very adaptable to any stage because it's always been that way. And obviously, there was the fancy theater where they had a few more things, but there's also there's ways to do Shakespeare with not many props. There really is, and you can tell because you just need a set that is designed well to be able to do it. I mean, even the show that we saw recently, like the set was very like the set design was crazy because like there were screens and it had like fire and like photos from the events basically like on the screen that would flash. So the set design was very elaborate, right? But think about the set itself. It was just like a stage and they would bring out like chairs and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So
lawn chairs.
Yeah.
Oh, a local play is happening. Let me go bring my lawn chair.
But you know how they would bring like a stool on or something, but they didn't have like like a full set that they could run around. Like I love sets for this, or I don't have a preference, I don't think. But it's just nice when a show. Stage. Yeah, I love a good show that is like one set and you can just run around that set the whole time. Like those shows are so cool. But shows where you kind of don't need a set and it's more so like moving pieces, like moving props almost. That's really interesting too, because it's like a different type of show. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I think Shakespeare, I think it could honestly be both. Like a lot of Shakespeare plays. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot of them could be like you could go elaborate with it for some of them. But most of the time, there's probably a lot of scene changes or set changes because, whether they're going through.
He's not the type to do a whole show in like one location.
I mean, this one takes place kind of in like this like kingdom, I guess. So it probably could be used in like one location, but there's still like there's something similar to like and I don't think they've gone there yet, but they've talked about it. It's like sort of like a Juliet balcony where like Romeo is like
those
Juliet,
types
like,
of balconies.
It's like there's another one of those types of things, and I think they were talking in the overview about how they would do that on this stage, and I can't remember exactly how they said they did it, but they'd have to figure it out. They'd have to adapt and stuff like that. But that's part of the fun. You know what I'm saying? But Shakespeare didn't always get his way in set design, in performance, because he was an actor too. Like
Shakespeare was an actor?
Yeah, he was an actor too, which is pretty interesting.
An actor-writer. Writer-actor. I like writer-actor combinations. That's nice.
It's fun. Anyway, I wish I took some notes. Maybe next time I'll take some notes so I can recount more for the podcast. But yeah, I really like it so far. The characters are interesting. It's like about sort of setting up these characters that supposedly hate each other, but they secretly kind of. I mean, they have good banter, is what I'll say.
Good banter.
Yeah, they have good banter. But like everybody around them is like, guys, what if we like make them fall in love? Because it'd be like funny as shit.
Wait, what?
Yeah, like basically like the one like woman, she's like her name is Beatrice, right? It's Benedict and Beatrice, and like Beatrice like fuck that Benedict guy, he sucks. She's like, he's like disgusting, he's like a dickhead. And Benedict is kind of a dickhead. He's just like a dickhead. Like he's like I will never get married, like all this stuff. And then like this guy, like all these guys, most of the characters are like homies or like servants of like the
Beatrice, or
like, so all of these characters are like, how do I say it? It's like they're like right-hand men to like these two upper class guys, I guess. Like Don John, his name is Don John. I know, right? Don John and
I saw that movie.
Don Pedro.
That sounds cool.
And like I can't remember what their like official title is. Like let me actually look up. Let me like check the play. Because I can't remember what they're like. I always forget. So Yeah, there's Leonardo. He's the governor of Messina. And
Don John's a bastard.
Yeah, Don.
Nice.
Oh, here we go. Here's the
love
list.
our bastards.
So Don Pedro is a prince. Yeah, Prince of Aragon. Don John is his bastard brother, which just means that his parents were married.
Or father?
So probably like one of his siblings was this. One of his. They have one parent in common, is my guess, based on that. I think that's what
I'm gonna guess. It's that they have different moms because bastard child is usually related to like a lineage of fathers.
Have you watched Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Isn't there like a bastard character in that?
Yeah, both of those characters, they have a different mom. It's the
go.
idea of like your son, by right of your like marriage, is the one that has like the right to everything. But if you have like a bastard son, is that you as the father have a child not from your actual wedlock with your wife. So they're like scum or something. You know what I mean?
Whoa.
It's like they're not official.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
Some stupid lineage shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, never mind. I just thought of something. Anyway, then there's Claudio, a young lord of Florence. Wow. Yeah. And then there's Benedict, young lord of Padua. Anyway, so they're all these.
So Benedict's a dick.
They're all these like friends of the princes, or they're like right hand men. They're like the Lancelots to Arthur. It doesn't really matter what their exact. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't really matter what their exact thing is. But basically, like it's like it kind of feels like it's like a setup thing where this one. Like Claudio like falls in love with like Hero, who's like the daughter of one of the guys. And
who's Hero?
Hero's like the daughter of like Don Pedro or Don John. I can't remember which one. Because like for me, it's confusing. Don John and Don Pedro. I always mix them up. Mm-hmm. So like that part of reading it is like confusing for me. Yeah.
Don and Don.
But it doesn't really matter because like I get the point. I'm like, okay, it's like some prince's daughter or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so basically, then like Don John he's like, okay, Claudio, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna like, he's like, because he's a prince, he's like, I'm gonna like woo Hero, like I'm gonna like get her to like, I'm gonna get her dad to like fall to like essentially like give her to me in wedding because this is like, you know, like Elizabethan times, like and then I'm just gonna give her to you.
Oh
yeah. And like from what I can tell so far, it seems like Hero doesn't have many lines, but it seems like Hero just like I mean, from the descriptions, it seems like Hero does like Claudio, but Hero hasn't spoken. You know what I'm saying? Which is kind of intriguing to me. I don't know if that's going to come up later or not. But then like, but then you know they're also a lot of the parents are talking about how Beatrice is so unagreeable, but also how Benedict is so unagreeable. And because they're both so unagreeable, they kind of all agree that maybe they're perfect for each other. So like
all these people around them?
Yeah. So they kind of like all set up this like scheme to
You're scheming for
actually though, it's not entirely true. Cause then there's like I think like one of the dudes was like insulted that
yeah, this sounds like revenge to me.
Yeah, it's I wish I knew the names better. I feel like I'm doing an injustice to this by like my description. But essentially, I think Leonardo it was or something.
Leonardo?
I think Leonardo was like the father of somebody. Who is he? He's like the governor. Anyway, that whole thing about how like the prince like gave Hero to Claudio, I think that didn't go over well with Hero's dad. From what I remember. Oh. And so essentially Hero's like, or the dad's friend Baraccio was like, yo, why don't you just like kill them? Like not like kill the like the dude who the dude who wronged you and like stop all this from happening. And like that's kind of like
the fuck?
That's like the premise right now. I really like I wish I took notes so I could like I need like a character chart. This reminds me of the book like 100 Years of Solitude if anybody's read it because it has like hella like names that you're just like I can't follow all these names. You know what I'm saying?
That happens to me with TV a lot.
Like, I heard Game of Thrones is like that.
Game of Thrones is a similar issue where you got to remember like 30 different characters per scene.
This is like not that many characters. Like, it makes sense while I'm reading it. But then like, I'll have to like go back to like the front page and be like, which one? Like Don John this person's parent? Because like, there's a lot of times like they'll refer to one of the daughters as daughter in one line, or they'll refer to one of the daughters as cousin or niece or cousin in another line. So I guess like niece or cousin was a synonym for daughter in like Elizabeth.
Does it also depend on who's speaking? Because someone who's a daughter to one person is going to be a cousin to someone else. That's the thing.
So sometimes it is their actual niece and they say niece, and that's cool. But then sometimes like their niece and they say like cousin. So I'm like, did cousin used to be like a broader term that people just used generally?
Cousin's just like a family member. Because I guess like there's like, you know, the whole thing about like second generation cousin and third removed and like all these different types of cousins.
The family tree.
It feels like at some point after like sibling and an uncle and aunt and that shit, they're just like, you know what? You're somehow a cousin. That just means like you're just related.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And yeah, that's what I think it is. I think that's like, but I think it's making me more confused because I'm just not used to the words, like the language. But actually, believe it or not, reading the introduction really helped because there's like a list of a lot of like synonyms and stuff. Like, oh, this is what Shakespeare uses as a synonym for this, essentially. But some of them you're like, duh, that makes 100% sense, right? But then others you're like, what is that? How did he get from here to there? Those seem like opposites. And it just makes you really curious about your own upbringing, because you're like, why is this an obvious synonym to me, but it's like not an obvious synonym to everybody? Because think about it, like they put it in this book so because it apparently is an unusual one. But if it feels like usual to you, does that mean that
you're kind of weird?
Yeah, like does that mean that your upbringing is slightly different than a lot of people's? It's so hard to say.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a really good question. Yeah, I don't know. Shakespeare's like I feel like Shakespeare is someone that requires a little bit of decoding before you can fully jump in.
He definitely does.
And it's also intentional because apparently people of his time also were like decoding his shit and like, yo, what are you talking about?
Here's what I'll say is like, once you catch the wave, it's like it's sorry, my sinuses are kind of stuffy. Once you catch the wave of like the writing, it's like not that difficult to follow.
The wave?
Yeah. Because like I thought this was gonna be like impossible to follow because like
shit's Shakespeare.
When I used to read it in high school, it was like I was
Shakespeare to me felt what are you talking about?
In like literature in high school, I had trouble with like King Lear and stuff. I was like, this is like so crazy. And then in college,
I like King Lear actually.
No, I liked it. I liked the premise of it, and I thought it was interesting. But I remember it being really difficult to read. Yeah, in high school, and then in college,
Macbeth was difficult for me.
Did you have to read that one in high school?
I had to read Macbeth.
For which class?
I want to say AP language.
Oh, yeah. I didn't take AP
One of my AP classes, we were reading Macbeth, and it's just like, I don't get it.
Yeah. I didn't read Macbeth, but I think I saw the movie, and I saw King Lear because Mr. Boss showed us the.
Yeah, he did show us King Lear.
He showed us the old stage productions. Remember, we got to watch the stage performance, the WJ stage performances.
That was the stage. So they did.
King Lear. No, he had like we watched the.
I had a memory of like watching an old version of King Lear where it's just like someone recording like a literal play, and they had like a thing in the back. But I didn't know that was like the WJ.
That's what I'm saying.
Performance.
Isn't that cool that he did that?
I mean, he got connection, man.
Yeah. Well, he was the producer for a long time, so he had those connects. Yeah.
You still gotta go back and get Mary Poppins. They owe us that.
Yeah, they apparently record all the shows.
That's what I'm saying. You owe me one of these shows, bro.
Yeah,
that's all. You owe me one of these shows.
Anyway, yeah, I'll wrap it up on Shakespeare here. But what was I saying?
No, please go on. I want to hear.
Oh, I was saying then in college I had to read Hamlet backwards. I think I talked about this.
You did tell me about that.
Yeah. Susan McCauley from UMBC, and she is fantastic. Like she really gave me like a run for my money on understanding Shakespeare. It had us like read it backwards and then take one character and analyze every single action that character did and like why that character did that action. And
did you read it backwards per page or per scene?
I think per page.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so like I had to do Polonius, who's like the servant to the king or something like that. And he's kind of scummy as far as it comes across in the script.
But then was his motivations easier to understand reading it backwards and forward?
It was, for some reason. Because you start thinking, like, why did he do this? And it's like, is it for his kids? Like, does he actually want his kids' best interests? Or are his kids' best interests his own interests? Like,
I can agree with you because I was just breaking down the scene from Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I might actually have to go back to that after this. But the final scene in Dark Knight where Harvey, it's 2008, right? Yeah, it's old enough.
Yeah, I think it's 2008. I think it's right.
What was our time frame? Was it every 10 years?
10 years. Yeah, you're good. I know we're old.
Yeah,
bro.
Okay.
We're
okay.
old. We're like
I was
old.
like 2028 or 2018. Anyway.
We were 8 in 2008.
That was a good time. Actually, no, that was a terrible time for me. That was a lie. I don't know why I said that. Anyway, I was breaking down the scene.
Well, The Dark Knight came out. I didn't see it
in
theaters,
but the fucking recession happened.
My parents didn't let me see it in theaters.
You did mine.
Yeah, it was too.
Wow. It was intense.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was breaking down the scene.
In theaters.
You saw what?
Rises in theaters. Dark Knight Rises.
Well, yeah, it was 2012. It was different.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we were 12 by then.
It's different. It's different. It's way different.
Yeah,
anyway, I was breaking down the scene from Dark Knight. The ending scene where Harvey Dent has Gordon's family like hostage and is threatening Gordon like, I have lost everything and I want to make sure that you understand that you lost everything.
Yeah.
And I'm reading the script while watching the scene simultaneously, right? And I was like, Harvey's motivation is not entirely clear in the first act of the scene. And it isn't really clear in the second act of the scene, but in the third act, it makes perfect sense.
Dude, even Joker, like, because I remember when I watched back The Dark Knight like 2 years ago, so give me a break on the exact context or whatever. But Joker was burning his money, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, dude, like, you're this like criminal mastermind. Like, I know you're supposed to be an anarchist, but like, don't you need money to like set up all these like heists and shit? Like, I know it's like you need money to set up a heist. Like, to steal money, you need
it costs money to take money.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm like, you just like, why are you burning the money? Like, what?
He doesn't need that much money.
Like, how much of an anarchist can you be that you don't need this money?
Joker doesn't care, bro.
But the thing is, like, doesn't he need it to like? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he.
No, he doesn't. That's the whole point. He doesn't need it.
You think he does?
He just uses fear, intelligence, and just chaos.
Right. But money can't hurt in like setting up.
I don't even think he's paying his guys, bro.
Oh,
but he's all under his payroll.
You don't think he's paying his guys?
I don't know how. I think he does.
I guess that would make him even more villainous.
Because he's like, I think it's because they believe in the idea that he's trying to sell. That nothing actually matters.
Oh, so you're saying
it's
he's like
all just chaos.
Oh, wow.
You know what I mean? But anyway, that's not the point.
No, that's an interesting villain. That's an interesting.
But
villain.
Harvey's motivation.
Heath Ledger's performance too.
No, Heath Ledger's fantastic.
Like, so good. Yeah.
But Harvey's motivation in that final scene was that he wanted Gordon to fully understand what he was emotionally going through by making him also lose something. Yeah. But he wastes. I don't want to say waste. It's they use it for good reason.
Yeah.
But he doesn't make that clear in the second or first act of that scene where he's just talking to Gordon. It's like, hey, you did all this wrong to me and screw you. But like, he doesn't immediately go to saying, all right, I'm going to kill someone that you love. He just plays with him first. And it's kind of like toying with him and like terrorizing him, just being like, yeah, no, I lost everything. And that sucks. And you need to apologize to me. He's kind of wasting his time with it. So
wasn't sure.
Huh?
Like, he wasn't sure. Like, do you think he had a plan?
I'm still breaking down the scene. It's not that I don't think he wasn't sure. I think his motivations is a little bit more complex.
Yeah.
Where it's not just that he wants Gordon to understand how he felt.
Yeah.
He also is really doing it for revenge and is saying, I lost everything and you don't, and I want you to suffer. So really, he just wants Gordon to suffer throughout that whole scene. But then it becomes to more of a clear motivation when Batman shows up. It's like, you know what? I just want someone to feel what I felt right now. So someone, I think that
kind of gives into the anarchy theme.
That's what I'm saying. Like in his own deranged mind, he's kind of figuring out what he wants as the scene goes on.
Yeah.
Because he really could have just like, all right, Gordon, you're here now. I'm just gonna kill somebody and then move on. But he didn't exactly do that immediately.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I get it. Like, I feel like motivations only become really clear at the end of a scene.
So
from
true.
that scene that I was breaking
That's a good
down.
metaphor for life. Motivations only become clear at the end of a scene. But like that's how you say it. That's how you say it, because that's why you go backwards.
Yeah.
So
as I was saying, so breaking down a scene backwards, I do get it.
Nice. That's well said. Like, yeah, and that's why it made sense that she had us read it backwards. Like, because you try to see the result, and you're like, okay, did they get what they want? And if they're happy at the end, then they probably got what they wanted. But if they're unhappy, then you're like, okay, their goal wasn't accomplished. So what was their goal?
What was their goal the whole time?
And like, and so going backwards for Polonius, you're like, you can't tell if he's doing the shit for himself or for his kids. Like, it's like he's talking about it as if he's doing some righteous thing for his children, but you're like, it doesn't feel like he's doing it for his kids. It feels like he just kind of likes the power and shit like that. So I had to write a paper on what his motivation was. And that's what I said. I'm like, it's unclear. Because, like, you know, the story is not unclear. Yeah, because it's not Polonius the play, but it's like you can take context clues and give multiple options. It's not going to be clear cut one or the other. It might be. It might try
be a clue that tells you exactly what it is.
Right, but you never
didn't get enough clues.
But if you don't hear like what's it called? Is it called a soliloquy, where they go and they have their little speech on the side, like a monologue, like their mini monologue?
I don't know enough about plays.
I can't remember what soliloquy means, but anyway, whenever they go off and they have their little like Shakespearean, like, for those of you who haven't like watched or read Shakespeare, like sometimes they go off and they have like it's like a thought bubble. It's like to get in the head of the character.
Little monologue.
They have a little monologue. And I think the idea is that you're supposed to take it as objective truth, because it's just like their thoughts.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's been a minute since I read Hamlet too. So I don't know if there's many Polonius things like that, but those are things you can kind of take as like true motivation, because they're supposed to be like objective thought, I feel like. And if there's not that much of that, because it's not a main character, or that character is not focused on that much, it gets tricky. Or if there's maybe there's more of that in the beginning of the play but not in the second half, so you start to lose their motivation.
In the film world, there's not as many solo monologues by yourself, just reflecting on your own personal thoughts, so you don't get that objective truth. In film, monologues are usually always directed towards a character. So you kind of have to always dig and understand, why is this character saying it to this other character, to know what the true intention is. But it's not like what they say is objective truth, because they are saying it to somebody.
Exactly. I forgot.
Which is why therapy is so good, because in that sense, because you don't have a personal relationship with your therapist other than the fact that they want to help you,
right?
You can almost speak to them honestly,
so true,
without the fear of like, how do I say it, or how do I do this, or how do I do that. You can just speak your mind as if it's like a monologue from a play.
Look at that. Shout out to therapy.
The whole point of that was just to say therapy is fantastic. I think everyone should have
therapy is therapeutic.
Therapist, you know what I mean? Go to therapy at least one session. It'll be good for you.
Therapy is great. You can just like talk to people, without judgment.
Exactly. I got a free one in Uber one time. I probably already talked about this, but I got a free therapy session.
Why was your Uber driver?
My Uber driver was a therapist. He just like told me that, and so I was like, "Wait, what?"
You're like, can I talk to you?
No, I didn't, because like for me, right, and this is younger me, so I was different back then. But when she told me she was a therapist, I was like, "Ooh, all right, let's play the psychoanalysis game. You think you're gonna break me, but I'm gonna break." I took it like competitively. Like, oh, she thinks she all this because she's a therapist. Let me break her down and see what's up, right? So then she tells me she's a therapist, and then she asked me a series of questions. I'm like, "Fuck." She got.
Oh, she actually broke it down for you. Got the list down, or like?
No, she figured like she asked me 2 questions. Oh, snap. I think, and I answered them honestly. And then she told me like that was kind of in a very good space, but I had this one particular issue that she was able to detect, and was that I was holding grudges. Like there was this feeling of like something was taken from me, and in order for me to grow, I have to let that go.
Oh, that reminds me of the conversation that we had when you opened up on the podcast.
Yeah, it's true. You know what I mean? And since she said that, I've been on a path to understanding that and like stopping that, and I'm a lot better now. I don't really hold any grudges anymore. I definitely have triggers.
Yeah.
Right. But I think I've let go of my actual conscious grudges.
Dude.
So but anyway, that's what I'm saying. Like, wherever we can get a therapist, go ahead and get one. Because they will she got me, bro. I thought I was gonna get her. She got me.
Bro, I try to tell people too. I'm like, look, if like grudges are tiring to hold. And like unless I told you or you told me that we're not good, I'm gonna assume that we're good. Because like I ain't got time to hold grudges to keep track of all that stuff. You know what I'm saying?
See, but here's the thing about grudges. It's not that you don't have the energy. The issue is that you do. That for some reason, something about whatever the situation was, your brain has decided that it's going to allot this amount of energy.
Right.
Solely fueled on you got to get back at that.
It happens naturally. It happens naturally.
You naturally give energy to these grudges.
I'm not immune to grudges. I just try not to have grudges. And then it's actually more relaxing to have less grudges.
Letting go is a conscious effort.
Right.
It's a decision.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's not necessarily easier, I would say. Yeah. But it feels more like it feels easier
but once you can finally do it, it's like I'm good, man. That's what I was watching. This is actually a good segue. All right. So I was just watching the final episode of The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil anything because it did just come out a couple months ago.
Yeah, you probably should like walk around it because it's not 10 years old.
Yeah. So does it matter? I guess it doesn't matter. Like, what about characters being alive or dead? You feel me? Because this is kind of important.
I don't know.
I won't spoil who, because I'm not spoiling who. You know what?
Can you say it without saying the character's name?
Yeah, I'm going to generalize it.
Yeah.
So
this I figured was old enough.
Yeah, it's Shakespeare, bro. But anyway, I was watching the final episode of The Walking Dead, and there's a particular character that everybody hates. Everybody hates with a burning passion. They wronged a lot of people, and it's like, you deserve to burn in the gates of hell.
Okay.
Right?
I understand. Yeah.
And the episode, I mean, the whole season, but it really comes to head in an episode.
I've seen like 7 seasons. Sean just finished the last season.
I just finished the last
season. Was that season like 11 or something?
Yeah, season 11.
Okay.
Season 11. And so all the characters kind of have to deal with like, oh my God, like I hate this guy so much, this or that. But the arc for a lot of these characters was, in order for you to live, because that's the general, I feel like, theme of the whole season, is that you have to choose life over death. Right. In order for you to live, you have to let go of these things that have hurt you in the past.
Yeah, for sure.
So a lot of these characters were like, all right, I have hated you in the past, and honestly, you did some horrible things, and I hate you. But I'm not going to let that control me any longer. Yeah. I'm going to live beyond it.
Yeah, dude, that's an interesting moral. I just wish it didn't take him 11 seasons to get there. I feel like, I mean, maybe on rewatch, it would be, for me, it was a little too much. It was like a lot of episodes, and a lot of the seasons felt like they weren't going anywhere.
No, I think, I have a complex relationship with The Walking Dead, because I felt like
when it was good, it was fucking good.
No, The Walking Dead was, in its first season, one of the best shows that came. I think it was like the best show that came out that year. It was 2008, right?
Yeah.
Because back then,
wow, that was 2008 too. Wow.
Yeah, there was 3 shows that everyone was talking about at that era, right?
Yeah.
Walking Dead, Breaking Bad, Game of Thrones. These were like the trifecta of like, dude, fantastic television.
Game of Thrones. It's like on my list.
Put that show on the list, bro. Game of Thrones, I think, despite what people say about the last season, and I'm included in that, the journey is worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it just sounds like every episode's like a movie, so I just like feel like that would be awesome.
No, so worth it. Yeah. But yeah, like back in the day, The Walking Dead was one of that trifecta of just like fantastic television. Mm-hmm. But I think it's suffered from one of my biggest gripes about TV, where their goal is to keep the show for as long as possible and not to tell a good story. So then it lost. I feel like it had a direction, and then it lost its direction around season 4, 5, 6. It just didn't know where to go, and so it just did a whole lot of BS for the next like 3 seasons.
I agree. That's why I stopped watching after 7. I was like, I don't want to say why exactly, because I feel like it is a little bit spoiler head like based.
When did that season come out? Because it started in 2008. So you might be good.
Oh, it's okay. I don't need to go like super in depth on it, but there was an antagonist that I felt stuck around for a little bit too long. Yeah, I won't tell you which season that was because some do stick around longer than others, but there was one.
Yeah, some are half a season, some are seasons.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So, but yeah, no, The Walking Dead. I think it lost its direction sometime in that 4 or 5, 6, 7 season era. I feel like in season 11, not that they fully refound direction, but they definitely said, all right, this is our last season.
Yeah.
Let's try to give everything we can to make sure every character has their moment.
Yeah.
That they have their growth and that they put at least some inkling of hope in the most apocalyptic, horrible world worst case scenario.
And you felt satisfied?
Yes and no. Because here's the thing, right? The show, I think, was always about finding hope in the darkest of times, right? It came out literally during the 2008 housing recession where everyone was losing hope and it was despair.
Dude, it's so true. Like that type of thing matters on what people watch. Like it definitely, I
was reading this thing about how like they were saying that the housing recession did definitely feed into people loving The Walking Dead.
Wow.
Because their theme is all about, the world sucks, but we still have each other. And so the hope just like
art reflects the world around us. No way.
So I was trying to say last episode about fucking age.
About what?
About age.
About age. You mean about like what you consume based on your age and stuff like that?
No, just about like eras and like how art does have an age. There's a certain point where it's old.
That's true.
The Walking Dead.
That's true. Old. But some themes and morals and stuff are ageless.
Yes, some themes are ageless, but some stories, I think all stories, have an age.
They're based in age. What if you like tried telling a story that took place outside of like
time?
It would be really because like you can only reference what you know is true. But like if you took inspirations from different time periods, like the 1960s and the 1550s, and like you just tried mixing them like Middle Earth, you made some weird amalgamation place, and then you told a story as kind of an ageless tale, no?
I still disagree because you're still speaking from a perspective of a certain time.
That's true. Right? They don't have the future to call.
It's like you're trying to live outside of your own body, but you still live in this body.
You still only have your past and present to write on. You don't really have the future.
And then a guess of the future, right?
Yes.
So for us, the 60s futuristic stuff with the idea of like flying cars and everything.
That's a 60s future. It's not an actual.
It
might be a future, but it's
regardless. Like we see that as like a style of the future from the 60s, right? And it's like a really cool, like iconic version of the future. But 1,000 years later, they might consider like a different era, what they thought of like what the future was as the iconic version of what the future is. Right. It's just like you can't live outside of where you are.
Yeah, and we talked about it before. But like the reason I love Incredibles is this is not. I loved Incredibles before I knew this about it. But then you think about it, you're like, oh, maybe I subconsciously understood these cues the whole time or something like that. Yeah. Which is that it's like future, but it's like the 50s advertisement of the future, basically. So it's like it feels like it takes place in more modern times. Yeah. But it's like still has like that sharp, pointy furniture that they were advertising in like the 50s and like the shapes and stuff. Yeah. And like the gizmos and gadgets are like what you would have expected, like what you probably saw on TV at that time as the future-y stuff. But it's not what the actual future. It's not what we think about the future as now. Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas our future is a lot more round, I feel like, in terms of shapes.
So what do we imagine the future as? And then you could tell a story from our perspective in the present, like what our imaginative future is.
Exactly. And then someone else will be inspired by it.
Right. Or you can write a story in 1550 about what they think, 1560 is going to look like, but that's very different. But the morals, the things, they're probably very similar. Like the pointy shapes, like that probably goes in and out of fashion. You know what I'm saying? Like
for us, I was just talking about with the fashion stuff, right? I have a 90s pop culture mom, right? So grunge and darkness is the vibe. And I can definitely tell that has fed into what I think of as really good stories now. So then I'm trying to create more like dark and grungy vibes, which will then feed someone else. But it's all coming from like a different age. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
our perspectives are because of old things.
Right. Well, you also like, I mean, for me, like, you know, the music my dad showed me growing up, I didn't understand as this is something I didn't understand as like this is something my dad is like giving me essentially, like passing down to me, because for me, my first assumption is like, oh, because my dad knows these must be like classic songs that everybody knows, which is hilarious because it's like, no, like, why would you assume that everybody knows something that you're shown? But it's like, I don't know, a lot of times when somebody that is important to you in your like childhood development, you assume their knowledge is almost like universal knowledge or something like that. Is that a good way to put? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're saying. It's like, this is a personal experience that I'm having, yes, but it feels like they're teaching you something that's a universal truth.
When you're young,
so everyone must have experiences together.
Yeah, when you're young, you know, you go out places, your parents know people, so you're like, okay, my parents know everybody. Like, okay.
I didn't really have that experience, man. I'm an immigrant, so
yeah, I can see how to be a different perspective.
I didn't have that same experience, but I do feel like I grew up off of certain things that my mom was giving me, so I thought like a lot of people knew what these things were.
Yeah,
but they no.
Right.
Like, a lot of people don't know the show Girlfriends, but
you also know some stuff that you feel like everybody knows.
Yeah,
like
I don't know if I can give you an example right now, but.
Like if you're, so it's interesting. So like if artist is popular in your friend group in high school, right? And you guys all talk about this artist and like what this artist is going to drop. The artist is like the biggest person in the world to your table at lunch, right? But then,
I feel like when we were in middle school, that entire good music thing, that was like the biggest thing at that time.
Good music.
You know, the Kanye and Big Sean, the Lamborghini Mercies.
Yeah.
You know, like those songs were like the biggest songs.
Right.
Of like
what songs are they playing at the dance? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like
Lamborghini.
Right. But
that was hard back in middle school.
Right. But it's all a matter of perspective. There's like a saying that is like, and I've said this, I believe I have said this before on the podcast, but if you hear your, you know, arch nemesis's backstory, you sit down and hear him, you know, you'll understand. I mean, maybe you won't agree with the actions he took, but you'll be able to like understand the character's actions, much like reading Hamlet backwards. Like you understand
I think how you put that
where they are, how they got there, and what their moves were, right? And what they wanted, right? And you might not agree with their moral methods to get there, because everybody can only draw their own moral lines based on the way they were raised or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And like, but it's like, it's to argue against it's hard to argue like because in general, like, because like everybody has like different like backstory.
Exactly. That's why I try to not really pick fights on anything with anybody on anything, because it's like what anyone sees as an objective truth to them is such a personal experience.
Right.
That, like, there's no way to say that something is wrong.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Like, what
the only
is
things that you can say are definitely wrong are like literal, like, galactic truths. Like, yes, gravity. Actually, I don't even know if gravity exists, if that's an actual truth or a theory.
Well, there's a reason that in science they call everything a theory, right? I know it's because it, like, they always teach you in class, or maybe they don't teach everyone, but like at least in our schools, like they taught us that that, you know, it's like, it's called a theory, like it's still considered true, basically, as far as we know, it's considered true because it's been proven so many times.
Yeah.
But they call it a theory just in case it's not, because of past history where, you know, scientists have been proven wrong by people like Einstein or something like that, you know?
Although occasionally scientists have decided certain things are laws, right? Like Newton's laws. Yeah. Like these are unbreakable rules.
Is that just like a flex? Or is that like...
I think even in the science world, there's like levels to this shit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Scientists consider Newton's laws as like the ultimate theory.
What's like a social... like?
But they're like, Albert Einstein? Nah. theory of relativity.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's like a social, like, right. What is
this
like,
classism in science, bro?
Yeah. Like, I actually wonder.
Like, nah, bro. Newton's a goat, and screw you. That's what they basically said, bro.
Yeah, it's so interesting how you learn about all these philosophers and all this stuff about how they are these like ancient historical mythical figures, but and maybe their stories are over exaggerated and dramatized, and maybe some of them didn't exist. You know, maybe some of them are folklore, like Paul Bunyan, and maybe some of them aren't, right? Yeah. But either way, people are people, and like these stories, somebody probably did something like that before. You know what you mean? Well, I'm talking about like Socrates.
Okay, what about him?
Like Socrates. Well, actually, I think this is Socrates.
He played a lot of soccer back then.
That like went around his like city and just convinced everybody that they didn't know anything. And like he was considered the smartest man in town, apparently, because he was able to convince like doctors that they technically didn't know anything about anything. And he's famous for that.
That's a bar,
which I think is hilarious.
I wish you could do that in modern times,
I
bro.
think that's Socrates.
It might be like the internet. They just be telling everybody that they're wrong about everything.
Right, but it's like
they themselves
that's what I'm saying. But like we study Socrates.
Yeah.
Which is funny to me.
He was ahead of the game, bro.
I'm not saying, like, maybe he was ahead of the game. Maybe he was ahead of the game.
Because everybody does that now, where everyone's like, you don't know shit about shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. So. Yeah.
But no, Socrates, I think, is totally right. Like, there are things
if it's
that we've
him,
decided,
I don't want to misquote, but like I'm pretty sure that. Should I look
in
it
the
up?
event that it's not Socrates, I apologize to the true philosopher.
Yeah.
But I think that point is still really interesting. Of like, there are things that we consider very objective, and there are things we consider not extremely objective, and then there's a spectrum on like what you think is true and what might not be true, and yada yada.
Right.
But in truth, like I think you just got to accept that like nothing. You can't be certain of literally anything.
Yeah.
And as a small comfort for yourself personally, you can decide some things are personal truths for you, but because they're personal truths to you does not make it truths for
does not make them an objective truth, right?
Exactly.
And then I think sometimes people wish to really enforce their subjective truths as objective truths.
The Crusades,
and that's when it becomes like really dangerous. Yeah, like really dangerous.
The Crusades is literally that, where it's like people felt like their personal truths were objective truths and decided that it was worth killing people over, along with many other genocidal situations.
Yeah.
Horrible
choice, man. Choice. It's like people like taking away choice from people, but it's like
I think it's also a sense of being threatened, because I'm not gonna justify what happened in the Crusades on either side, but I feel like this is like when you look at it, it's just people afraid of feeling like what they've decided is true is not true, that it's a lie, right? That it's like their truth is being threatened. And that's where like madness starts to settle in. Because if nothing is true, then you're like, well, what's the point of anything?
I think people find comfort in like numbers too. Like the more people that believe X, the more likely it is to be accurate.
Yeah, people are just looking for comfort in some kind of truth.
Validation. But like if I come up with this theory that like the Earth does some crazy shit around the sun 18 million times, it doesn't matter. You know, if I come up with some theory and then I'm able to convince you of it, and then I'm able to convince like 80 people of it.
Yeah.
I could still be wrong, just because it's like trendy and it's like makes sense. Like it's still a theory.
Trendy doesn't make it true.
You know what I'm saying? Like unless we can find, you know, if we prove it again and again, that's the closest we can get to saying it's probably true. Which is, it's got, you know, to a certain degree, it's got to be comforting enough. You got to. I think that's what I realized is like you got to allow certain things to be comforting enough.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
Like yes, maybe nothing in this world is true.
Yeah.
But you can have your own comforting truths that you decided, you know what, this is good for me.
Yeah.
And that's fine. You know what I mean? Don't let anyone try to take that away from you. Like, whatever you've settled as, like, this is what you want to base your life around, like, it's okay. Accept that.
It's okay. Like, it's
just don't be giving it, don't be trying to push it, like, on other people, because that's when it's like, all right, sit down now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Calm down. You don't know that it's true. Whatever you believe in with like your God or whatever, you don't know that that's true. Whatever you believe in about science and the universe and evolution, you weren't there when these monkeys became humans, so you don't know that that's true.
We're saying it's okay to be you.
Yes, it's okay to be an individual.
Yeah.
That's what this all is coming back to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Is there anything else? I feel like we're on a very sharp time right now.
We are. Wait, what time is it?
It's 59.
Oh, that's nice.
You know what I mean? We're like really.
Should we try to end it at exactly 1 minute?
I'm kind of curious. Yeah, I don't want to make like a rush thing here.
All right, let's do a quick thing. Thank you for listening, everybody. That was an interesting episode. I really liked it, though.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you for being around and sticking around with us. But yeah, it's been your boy King Kudja
and Cough Drippy,
and we will see you on the next episode.
Yeah,
2 Chainz.
I'm gonna wait to say bye until like we got.
True. Okay, hold on. We got.
Hold on. Slow down.
We got like 15 seconds.
Run that back.
All right. It's your boy King Kudja.
Oh, nice. Oh, what's your middle name? No, I'm just playing. All right. Yeah, there you go.
2 Chainz.
All right. And peace out. Okay, ready?
That's fantastic.
Oh no, wait.
Oh